Alright, let me present my lead rope solo system. So I use for this an unmodified Gree, just Gree 2. I take 2 of these short slings and girth hitch them to my belay loop. And the reason I use 2 is so that it's a redundant attachment, and if I lost this attachment, then the attachment to the chest string, or the chest sling, might strangle me. So that's why I use 2. And then what I do is attach through my chest harness, and you could use a sling for this too, as a chest harness. It's just nice that this is adjustable. And there, after you lock that, it'll catch me like that. Now, obviously that's not all, I don't have the rope in there yet, but let's get that going. So I'll take this off for a second, because I have to feed the rope through. Now for my rope, at the ground anchor end of my rope, this is a little messy, but I'll show you how it's tied in there. So I've got this shock absorber, a Kong Kisa, and I have the rope through all the holes that it'll fit through, and this is going to absorb some of the shock in absence of a belayer to absorb some of the shock with their body or with the belay device, and this is going to help keep my top piece intact by lessening the load on it. So you can mess around with this a bit to try to get the amount of shock absorption that you want, because you don't want it to be totally stiff either. So depending on what I do, I'll engage more or fewer of these holes, or I'll keep them all engaged, but I'll back it off so it can be a progressive shock absorber too. Like maybe for the first few feet, I mean, two holes doesn't do much, but maybe for the first few feet it's pretty soft, and then just in case it's a harder fall, then the later loops can engage. And these should be longer. I want a bit of a longer shock absorption distance, so I would just feed more slack into there. And then in the end I just have an overhand on a bite, and I clip that as well, just in case the Kisa were to break for some reason. And it's also effectively a stopper knot so that the rope couldn't go through here. So this is attached to my ground anchor, whatever that might be, bolts or an upward directional anchor. And then in the rest of my rope I have these Alpine butterfly knots tied every few feet or so. It might be too close, depends on what you're doing, but I go on the conservative side of things. So anyway, this is all, and about halfway through, or whatever distance I think the climb is, I'll tie an overhand on a bite, in contrast to the Alpine butterfly knot. And the overhand on a bite is harder to untie. I'm going to notice it, and I'll know that I don't have any backup knots beyond that. And I'll tie more backup knots than I think I need, but that's a way for me to limit the amount of rope that I pay out, so that I can know when I might need to start another pitch or something like that, or whatever. Maybe I'd mark the halfway point if I don't know if I can rappel down. Anyway, these are all packed into a backpack. It can be kind of heavy to carry the whole rope around with you the whole time, but it's the way I do it. So I've got my rope tucked in there. This can go on my back. ground anchor. And I'll take this out because this is too soon. Alright, so let's say I've got my ground anchor in there, and now I'm ready to set up my belay. So what I'm going to do is set this up so that it catches the ground anchor end. And then I'll feed this through my redundant attachment points. Clip that up. Screw it up. Alright, so now if I'm leading and I fall, well, and it's a hard enough fall, then it'll catch. But that's not all, because, you know, the backup knots might get jammed in this, but I've heard of backup knots breaking one of these things or something like that, or this could be a bad attachment. And also, there's a lot of, you know, it's kind of loosey-goosey here. So, what I'm going to do is I take this Malian Rapide, this guy, and I'm going to put the rope in that and fasten it to my belay loop. Screw it down real tight. And now the backup knots would catch on this thing. They wouldn't even mess with the gree-gree. And this also directs this strand down where the gree-gree has a more effective braking power from that position. So as I'm feeding out, so this is what it looks like as I'm climbing. This end is being pulled down, and this is getting all twisted up. That's pretty typical. The way I deal with that is just to feed out more rope. And I'm going to try to alternate the direction of my Alpine butterflies, because I think they're what's twisting up the rope. The way you make them, it puts like twists in the rope, and it's just not, I mean, I guess I could flake it out again after making all of them, but that doesn't necessarily get rid of twists. So I'm thinking I'll do Alpine butterflies one way and then the other way, alternating. Alright, so, you know, that's going to catch, and I'm locked up, that's locked, and, yeah, I guess that's about it. So, any questions about that, just let me know.